Woo-hoo. I'm not as good as Tyler is with it, but it's fine. See? Nailed it. We're not talking about the original. We're actually talking about the remake that first aired August 2017.
I just remember seeing it. I was like, I'm down with this.
Also, it matches the color of the game. He has the red coat in the NES game, and he has the red coat in the show.
That's true. Speaking of the show,
so the best thing I liked about this remake is they made you not hate Huey, Dewey, and Louie. That's a huge thing, because the original show, you hated them.
really?
They didn't have anything different about them. They all wore the same outfit, just different color hats. All three of them, I disliked.
With this show, it was probably written by people who watched the original.
Like, it was guys who loved the original who wanted to bring it back.
It feels like an old school Saturday morning cartoon.
They wanted to look like old school classic Disney animation. And that's,
it does.
And it does. And it's nostalgia to a point. DuckTales is a good example of how you do two storylines while it's running.
Yeah.
And it's done well. So this is more of a difference between more modern storytelling compared to what happened in the 90s. Start with Duckburg. Right after that, we get to Uncle Donald. Donald Duck is very rarely in the original.
I didn't understand a single thing Donald Duck said in the entire episode. Thankfully, subtitles wrong.
That's a Donald thing.
Oh,
so that's the thing. If you're an old school
It's
Disney guy,
like,
you understand Donald Duck.
Like,
You know
I wouldn't want him any other way.
Well, actually,
don't get me wrong.
They kind of like lower down how good Donald Duck is. He's just a guy on a boat, whatever. The boys have no idea that he's related to Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, and they don't even let you know that.
Donald Duck is going to a interview, and in that interview, he's trying to get a job. Okay, the boys have to go somewhere. So literally, the boys are trying to get him out so that they can go to Cape Suzette.
Yep.
Which is brilliant because now they're merging the world of the Disney universe together with the Tailspin universe, which we'll talk about DuckTales in a later episode.
You mean Tailspin in a later
Tailspin,
episode.
sorry. But Tailspin is already brought up. You get a kind of a hint that Scrooge McDuck isn't just a greedy old man that likes to hoard money. It's much more about, hey, he's an adventurer, and he spends his money to go on adventures. Scrooge McDuck is voiced by David Tennant.
Which I had no idea about until you told me. Speaking of which, can we talk about how bored he clearly was in that meeting?
That's what I was about.
Like, it was amazing how well they animated that.
He's already feeling like old, like he's like a has-been, but he's still a cheap old man. And then after he meets Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
I love how like different the boys are from each other.
That's the point.
Yeah, like they very easily could have not been.
They're actually different pieces of Scrooge. One is very survivalist, like Scrooge McDuck.
That's true.
So Huey is the guy with the red. Dewey is the daredevil one.
Louie's the evil one, that's all I know.
Scrooge McDuck just throws him in a room.
I want to talk about the attempted escape with the marbles.
Oh, it's the best. That's Dewey, yeah. He's
just smashing the doorknob off, and the doorknob breaks off.
It's the worst plan. Yeah, it's the worst plan. Yeah, so eventually it breaks off. And then that's when Webby comes in. That's the only way they could bring in Webby. Because Webby was a major part of the original show.
Oh, she was. Webby's the character that knocked it out of the park for me in this episode.
Killed it.
Because I didn't see it coming. She's just really excited. It's the only way I can really describe it. Like,
no,
she's happy to finally meet family.
Well, no. Okay, first of all, I think you misunderstand that. She's happy to see people.
Fair.
Oh, you're the nephews! With her eyes light up like a stalker's would.
Yeah, 100%.
Because she's clearly obsessed with the Scrooge McDuck family. She eventually gets them out, and then she takes them to her playroom, the area of mysteries, because Scrooge McDuck has all this ancient relic junk.
Yeah.
That literally no one else has. So they started kind of munging around, and during this time, you find out how Louie is a greedy jerk. Anyway, so he puts taggy on things to see how greedy he is.
Let me know down below how many of you have garages like that. I want to know.
You're also getting information about how they are. And in the room, you find out that Donald Duck is actually a world-class adventurer and used to go on adventures with Scrooge McDuck.
Which is a great way to show you what Donald Duck was, with them experiencing pictures and things from his previous adventures with Scrooge, cutting to like him in like the interviews, like just not knowing what to do, and like I can't function a stapler, and like trying to staple together.
That kind of manic energy is forward venturing. Because again, if you've been adventuring your entire life, you don't work well in an office. At the same time, after Scrooge was told what my has-been, he starts, and he starts planning out to find the lost city of Atlantis.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what this first episode kind of brings in. The boys are now starting to reinvigorate him.
With the headless horseman and the pirate, I don't remember his name, and the Excalibur whatever, and it like the sword that will not rest until it slays its enemy. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like flying into the ghost, and it's like, ah, get him! It's like, oh no! Ah! It's like an immovable force meeting like
an unstoppable object.
Unstoppable object. Well, unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. Yeah. That's what I was going for.
Well, no, but it's funny because literally it can't kill what's already dead.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's going to keep attacking him until the end of the episode. Scrooge McDuck finds them, handles everything in 5 seconds because we have 3 enemies. They're merging into one. He's like, good, one target.
Yeah.
Owns everyone. And then at the end of it, he was like, get out of here. And then he hits the gong.
Okay, can we just admit though, the horse getting the head?
That was the best.
That was so good.
That was such a funny.
That was so perfect.
It wasn't always like dun dun dun. He's like, oh, you hit it twice already. What happens is there's a dragon that gets unleashed that eats gold.
And guess who has the most gold?
Scrooge. Also, I forgot to mention this, Launchpad McQuack introduced as the driver. Terrible driver. And throughout the entire episode, Launchpad keeps saying, I'm a pilot. I'm a pilot. The 3 of them with Webby and Launchpad fly into the plane, save Uncle Scrooge, Louis, because he has sticky fingers, stole the Medusa glove.
Oh yeah.
From the oddities room.
What I loved was that when he turned him into the Medusa, the head fell down in. It just, you weren't expecting that to happen, and then it does. And then Scrooge is like flipping up in the air, and then dives hands first straight into the gold and starts doing backstrokes.
Well, to be fair though, he's supposed to.
Oh, 100%.
But that was the great, because he hasn't done the dive into the money bit yet.
Exactly.
In the whole episode.
It's a great way to cap the whole adventure off.
Great callback. If you don't realize it, the only person that says he's swimming in the money is Louis. And
then at the very end, they bring up Donald finally getting his job as a sailor for
Flintheart Glomgold. He's the most Scottish duck other than Scrooge. It's a perfect setup for this is going to be very different than the original DuckTales.
It's a new enough show that it shouldn't be a Saturday morning show, but it's a Saturday morning
100%.
show. Personally, for me, I recommend sit down and watch this. If you have kids, watch this with your kids. Watch 1 episode every Saturday morning. It'll take you forever to get through it, but it'll be a lot of fun. Let's strip away binge culture, because this is worth remembering.
Actually, what you guys could do, start making a fun playlist for your kids.
Yeah.
So you can make your own Saturday morning lineups.
Exactly.
Which is kind of cool. But with this one is timeless.
For me, there's no question about it. This is a true modern classic in terms of not even just a cartoon or like anything, but just a show.
I liked it better than the original in a lot of ways.
If you haven't watched it, you should go watch it. It's that good, and it holds up.
I would have enjoyed this show back in 1990.
Oh, 100%.
Like, this show is good regardless.
If you haven't subscribed here, we'd love for you to join us for Saturday Morning Sit Down. And if you can throw a thumbs up, that'll mean that we know we're doing the right thing.
Thank you for watching. Next week will be
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Cowabunga.